The moment that fans have been waiting for has finally happened. In an atmosphere full of tension and piquing curiosity, Park Jimin finally spoke up about the figure who has always been side by his side, Jungkook. That statement is not just an ordinary clarification, but an emotional confession that opens up many sides that have been hidden from their relationship behind the world's spotlight. Over the years, the relationship between Jimin and Jungkook is known as one of the warmest and most chemistry dynamics in the BTS group. They are not only group mates, but also friends who grew up together in the midst of the unforgiving pressure of the entertainment industry. However, lately, various speculations have started to emerge. The change in Jungkook's attitude, which is considered more closed, as well as their rare interaction in public, makes many fans wonder, what really happened? In an unexpected occasion, Jimin appeared with a different aura. Not Jimin, who is usually full of bright smiles and warm energy, but a figure who looks calmer, deeper, and as if carrying a burden that is not light. When the topic about Jungkook finally appeared, the atmosphere immediately changed. Silence. Tense. All eyes are on him. "I know a lot of people are wondering," Jimin said softly. His voice sounded heavier than usual. That simple sentence actually became the opening of a confession that was much bigger than anyone imagined. He did not immediately explain clearly. Jimin chose his words carefully, as if every sentence that came out carried a deep meaning. He revealed that the change seen from Jungkook is not something that just happened. There is a long process, there is pressure, and there are choices that must be taken. According to Jimin, Jungkook is currently in a different phase of life. As an individual, not just as an idol, Jungkook started to think about many more personal things. He wants to find himself beyond the shadow of the world's expectations that have been attached to him. And in that process, distance, both emotionally and physically, sometimes becomes inevitable. This statement certainly surprised many parties. All this time, many think that if there is a change, it must be caused by internal conflict. However, Jimin actually dismissed that assumption in a very subtle but firm way. "Nothing has changed from how we feel as friends," he continued. "It's just the way we live. Everything is different now." That sentence sounds simple, but contains an extraordinary depth of emotion. It was as if Jimin wanted to say that their relationship was not cracked, but was transforming. From two figures who are always seen together, now they are two individuals who understand each other from a distance that may not always be seen by the public. What made this moment even more touching was when Jimin started talking about the pressure Jungkook faced. As the youngest member in BTS, Jungkook is often in a unique position. He grew up in front of the camera, went through adolescence to adulthood in the never-extinguished spotlight. And behind all that success, there is a burden that not everyone can see. Jimin admits that there are times when Jungkook feels tired, not because he doesn't love what he does, but because his ever-increasing expectations make it difficult for him to breathe freely. In such conditions, taking distance is not a sign of weakness, but a form of courage. "I respect his decision," Jimin said with a sincere tone, "because I know it's not an easy thing." This confession became a turning point in the way many people saw the situation that happened. If previously filled with speculations and assumptions, now it is starting to see a more humane picture. That behind the glitter of the stage and the spotlight of the camera, they are still human with feelings, fears, and the need to find their identity. However, behind all that, there is one thing that remains unchanged: mutual care. Jimin emphasizes that even though they may not always look together as they used to be, their relationship is still strong, maybe even deeper because it is now built on a more mature understanding. This moment is also a reminder for fans that not everything needs to be explained in detail. There is a part of an artist's life that deserves to remain their personal property, and respecting those boundaries is the most sincere form of support. When the interview ended, the atmosphere still felt heavy, not just because of sadness, but because the honesty that has just been conveyed feels so real. Jimin not only speaks as an idol, but as a friend who understands and supports the journey of the people he cares about. And maybe that's where the real beauty of their relationship lies. Not on how often they are seen together, but on how deeply they understand each other, even when they have to walk on different paths. This moment will continue to be remembered as one of the most emotional points in BTS's journey. A reminder that behind all the splendor, there are small, meaningful stories, which are not always seen, but always felt. And for the fans, this is not the end of a story, but the beginning of a deeper understanding of the two figures who have given so much inspiration to the world. However, what Park Jimin said that night did not fully describe the depth of emotions he felt. After his initial statement that was already quite shocking, the atmosphere actually became even quieter when he was silent for a moment, as if he was gathering the courage to say something more honest. Something that he probably kept tightly all this time in order to keep many things intact in the eyes of the public. He took a deep breath, then continued with a slightly trembling voice. "There are many things that we cannot show," he said slowly. That sentence feels simple, but it actually implies a reality that has been often forgotten by many people. That the life of an idol, especially in a group as big as BTS, cannot always be fully shared with the world. At that moment, Jimin began to open up a more personal side about his relationship with Jungkook. He tells about how they used to talk until late at night, sharing dreams, fears, and hopes that may sound simple, but very meaningful to those who live an unusual life. They grew up together, witnessing each other's change, from ambitious children to adult men who shouldered great responsibilities. But time, as always happens, brings change. It is not a destructive change, but a change that demands adjustment. Jimin admits that there was a time when he felt the loss of Jungkook, who used to be so close to him. It's not because Jungkook moved away intentionally, but because their lives started to run with a different rhythm. "I was wondering, did I do something wrong?" Jimin said honestly. The confession immediately touched the heart of anyone who heard it. Behind the strong and professional image that he always shows, there is a doubt and fear that is so human. But over time, Jimin begins to understand that what happened is not about mistakes or conflicts. It's about growth, about how two very close people should learn to stay connected, even though they are not always at the same point in their lives. He then told a moment that he thought was very meaningful. A short conversation with Jungkook that he will never forget. In that conversation, Jungkook said that he just wanted to be someone who was more honest with himself. He wants to make a decision not because of other people's expectations, but because of what he really feels. That sentence, according to Jimin, became a turning point in the way he saw everything. He no longer sees distance as something painful, but as the space needed to grow. "And I'm proud of him," Jimin said with teary eyes, "because not everyone dares to do that." The statement immediately changed the direction of the narrative that had been developing among the public. If previously many focused on the possibility of conflict or division, now it is clear that what happened was the opposite. A maturation process that was not easy, but very important. Jimin also emphasized that their relationship has never really changed in the most fundamental things. Mutual trust, mutual respect, and mutual support remain, maybe even stronger because they now understand each other in different ways. He reminded that relationships do not always have to look the same to still have the same meaning. Sometimes the shape changes, but the essence still persists. At the end of his statement, Jimin conveyed a message that felt very sincere to the fans. He asked that everyone could see this situation with a more open heart. Do not rush to draw conclusions, do not be easily influenced by speculation, and most importantly, still provide positive support. "He is still the Jungkook you know," he said softly. "It's just that he is learning to be a more complete version of himself." That sentence seems to be the perfect closing for a very emotional confession. There is no excessive drama, no big conflict that many people have imagined. There are only two humans who are trying to understand themselves and each other in the midst of the enormous pressure of the world. And maybe that's where the true beauty lies, that behind all the speculations, rumors, and assumptions, there is a much simpler but much deeper story. A story about friendship, about growth, and about the courage to change without losing what really matters. This moment is not only about what Jimin said, but about what is finally understood by many people. That a strong relationship is not measured by how often they are seen together, but by how deep the connection is maintained, even in silence.